Morning all. So for today, to start things off, we're going to do a news of the day video. Here's the topics for now, and things are going to pick up over the next week, right? Because we've got the draft coming up. So we've got the draft coming up, and then we've got free agency, and of course, I think GMs are probably working the phones a lot. One just note, I've got the new camera now set up. This is a 4K camera. I don't really notice a difference on the screen, to be honest, but when you hook up a new camera, make sure that your computer isn't using that microphone for the audio. So if the audio seemed a little bit off, it was using the 4K microphone. I've got it back to my good studio microphone instead. So apologies. And I haven't seen the comments. It's possible there's been comments, but I thought I'd get out ahead of it in this video and say, hey, I got it. So we're going to start things off talking about Evgeny Malkin and the reason I'm wearing a Penguins jersey. Malkin may have played his final game as a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins, which, as shocking as that is, the reports are coming from a few different media, and that media reporting that it's coming from within the organization, saying that Malkin is probably done as a Pittsburgh Penguin. Now, honestly, with the money they save on Malkin, they can go out and bid on a guy like Kadri, right? So they would get a little bit younger down the middle, and it gives them a different look. Now, on the Letang front, Letang was reportedly signing a multi-year extension, but while the reports were out there of, yep, he's signing a multi-year extension, that has not yet been filed. We haven't seen it at the very least. It doesn't mean it's not done. It just means that we haven't seen it yet. But if Malkin hits the market, there's going to be a lot of teams looking at Malkin. And then it's a matter of, does he want the money? Which he said he doesn't. He has said he's already got a lot of money. It's not about the money, it's about a chance to win. So, in that event, where does he end up? We're going to find out pretty quickly here. I'd be surprised if he signed with a division rival of the Pittsburgh Penguins, but I've been surprised before when it comes to free agency. So Malkin might end up being a pretty big name. The one thing with Malkin you have to keep in mind is age. And so if they're signing him to a contract, you have to watch that cap hit. You have to watch that amount of time you're putting on that contract, that length of time, because if you give him a 4 or 5 year deal, odds are he's probably going to have a little bit of a drop off after that first year or two. But it's about getting that first year or two for a lot of GMs, and then if you have to trade a contract later, that's fine. So we'll see, right? We'll see whether or not Malkin ends up somewhere else and what that cap hit looks like and the term attached to it. All right, Anthony Duclair. So I'm going to take some responsibility on this one, whether it is or not, fine. So last night during the live stream, it was asked about what Florida was going to do, and I mentioned that Anthony Duclair was a healthy scratch for them in their do or die game, and I felt like that was kind of telling that maybe he was on the outs with the organization. And now he's on the outs in that he injured himself during off-season training, which happens. And it's an Achilles injury, which sounds exceedingly painful, and it may require surgery. So since it doesn't necessarily require surgery, we know it's not a full tear, but it might be a partial, and it might be one of those things where to heal correctly, they might have to go in and operate, and if they do, that's probably going to add extra time. But at this point, it's seen as an injury that there's no timeline for a return, and so I wish Anthony Duclair all the best with that. And we'll see if that affects what Florida's going to do in the offseason or not, because he'd obviously go on LTIR, all this fun stuff. But yeah, for Duclair, it's too bad because he had a career year. He had a fantastic year and just a rough finish to it. So hopefully he's not out as long as it looks like he might be. A lot of questions about how many injuries Tampa Bay was dealing with. So for Tampa Bay, the list, and I have it in front of me. Belmar, meniscus injury for him. Cirelli, shoulder AC joint was sprained. The same injury that Nick Paul and Corey Perry were playing through as well. But Cirelli also separated his shoulder against Colorado and kept playing. This it's ridiculous what these guys will play through. Kucherov had an MCL sprain that he suffered against Colorado. For Nick Paul, he also had an MCL sprain that he suffered against Colorado. So this was a tough series for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they just got worn down physically. Braden Point, it was a quad tear that he suffered against Toronto. Tearing your quad and trying to come back and play within a few weeks, just insane. But this shows again that warrior mentality that the Tampa Bay Lightning have shown for the last few years. And for McDonough, they said it was a mangled finger against the Rangers. Is it broken? Did he catch it in a thresher? Like, it just mangled finger could mean a lot of things. So hopefully that clears up for him. And yeah, so for the fact that the Tampa Bay had that many injuries that we know of so far is pretty major, and the team wants to keep as much of that core together. They want to keep expiring contracts of Paul, Palat, and Ruda are three guys they're keying on that they want to keep in the organization. They don't want to lose them in particular, and of course, with the cap being the cap, that would mean they probably end up moving out. I would think Killorn's probably the one that ends up being on the block. Killorn, a lot of people will point to him not getting a goal in this year's playoffs. I think he was just snake bit. It wasn't a lack of opportunity or that he wasn't playing well. It's just sometimes that happens in hockey. So I would expect Tampa Bay to move some money out in order to sign these guys. Paul, it might be interesting to see if he signs for less in Tampa than what Ottawa was offering, because that can sometimes happen too, where a guy will want more money from one organization than another. There's tax reasons. There's also the fact that if you feel like you have a chance to win a Stanley Cup, you might leave $500,000 on the table to help the team out a little bit, make sure you keep a good roster together, and have that chance to win a championship. So we'll see how many injuries Tampa Bay might be dealing with into this coming season, or maybe everybody's going to be fine. Maybe it'll all be fine. This coming season will be good. Speaking of, we'll go to the Colorado Avalanche. The Avalanche, what were they fighting through? Burakovsky had a broken ankle, which he played on, and then a broken right thumb. So again, it is insane what hockey players will play through. Gerard had a broken sternum, of course, that kept him out for the rest of the playoffs. So when I was seeing like comments of, well, if Tampa was healthy, they might have beaten Colorado. Well, yes, but if Colorado was healthy, they probably would have played better too. It's just that's that war of attrition in the playoffs. Nichushkin, as a for instance, kept playing with a foot injury that was so bad that he needed medical assistance to put his skate on. He could not do it himself. A lot of pain, and it doesn't look pleasant. So Nichushkin, an absolute warrior, and give him all the trophies because Nichushkin, yeah, he fought through that. And that does that bring his asking price up as a free agent? Does a GM look at Nichushkin with his foot all banged up and getting help putting his skate on and say, and then he had 4 goals in the final, bring him in? Didn't he have 4 goals in the final? I think it was 4 goals in the final. Anyways, or 2 goals in the. It doesn't matter. Nichushkin's a warrior, and that's that. I did see people saying that they felt he should have had more consideration for the Conn Smythe. I'm not going to argue with that. I think Nichushkin was absolutely key for them, but it is hard to overshadow Makar over a playoff run. Also, Kadri did have the broken thumb. I read somewhere that it was getting it frozen before games. I want to say that was before game 2 that I was reading that somewhere. For Cogliano, broken right hand and he missed 1 game. Tell me you were the NHL's Iron Man for a long time without telling me. Yeah, broken right hand and you're like, I might be down for a couple of days. I'll be back though. I'll just tape this up and go. Like it is just Cogliano's a warrior too. Denver, the first city to win both the NCAA and Stanley Cup titles in the same year in hockey since 1972. Obviously, nobody can win a Stanley Cup in anything that's not hockey, but NCAA titles you can win in other sports. So, yeah, the first city to win both, and yeah, that's remarkable. Boston getting that in 1972, remarkable as well. And yeah, so congratulations to the city of Denver for that. So, moving along to the Buffalo Sabres. So, the question of what the Sabres might do in the offseason, it might be a bit anticlimactic on free agent day for Buffalo fans. Buffalo's not expecting to spend a lot of money in free agency. They're not expected to be pursuing a lot of big name free agents, which is smart. I think they'd get spurned by big name free agents, anyways, for the most part. There might be a few free agents that might be interested in playing there, but it won't be any of the really big name guys. What they are looking for, reportedly, is somebody to pair with Luukkonen in net. They want a veteran goaltender to play. So it doesn't sound like Anderson's going to be coming back, but the names that I've seen are names like Holtby, Jack Campbell out of Toronto, as a for instance. And so we'll see. Would Jack Campbell cross the border and play for Buffalo and potentially against Toronto a bunch of times during the year? We'll see. So for Buffalo, that's where their focus is on the goaltending side of things. And outside of that, the roster that starts this coming season may be very similar to the one that finished this past season, which Buffalo is playing well down the stretch. That might be a good idea. We shall see. They need to get off to a fast start, though. I think a fast start and some good goaltending, and Buffalo could surprise some people. So, that being said, moving along. Detroit. So the question of who will be the Detroit Red Wings coach. Now that it's in the news of the day video, I'm going to go ahead and say you're welcome, Detroit, because It'll probably happen over the next 6 hours now. But the Red Wings, the reports have been and continue to be that Yzerman was kind of waiting until the playoffs were over for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And he was looking at potentially Derek Lalonde or Jeff Halpern, assistant coaches for Tampa, whose names have come up for other jobs as well. So it is possible that one or the other, or maybe both, end up being head coaches in the NHL, and maybe one or the other is going to be the new coach for the Detroit Red Wings, which would continue this tie between Steve Yzerman and the former organization that he was GM of before he went back to Detroit. So it makes some sense for Yzerman to look for guys that he's got some history with, that he knows, and honestly, so far things in Detroit look pretty well pretty well on their way in terms of them coming out of this rebuild. It is really tough to say when a team's going to come out of that rebuild and they're going to be in the playoffs, they're going to be a good team again. But Detroit, I don't think, is that far off. A couple of improvements to the roster, obviously getting the right coach behind the bench. Again, looking for a team that might surprise. The Atlantic in general could be very good from top to bottom next season if the right moves are made, which with Yzerman, I'm guessing that they are going to be made. All right, and finally, just a little bit of nonsense because we haven't had a hockey game in a few days, and I know I've already seen people saying that they're missing some hockey. So, because we haven't seen the hockey, we haven't seen all the gambling commercials. So, just as an update, THG BetX or THG $ if you're trading it on the non-existent market, it's taken no money in, but it's put no money out either. So, nobody's lost any money on the gambling side of things for the THG. So, the video I did a few weeks ago and all that. Hey, I said this was going to be nonsense, so don't you stick around for the nonsense. And then this is just nonsense, stupid hockey guy. I even labeled it nonsense. That's going to be the chapter, and I put nonsense on the board. So you stuck around for the nonsense. All right, thank you for sticking around for the nonsense. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. I think it's going to be a very busy next few weeks, and I think it's just a matter of that first trade, that first big move being made, and then it'll be dominoes from there. That's usually how it works. But thank you guys so much for all your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I will talk to you again soon.